Vince Gill, often hailed as the golden voice of Nashville, remains beloved by millions for his warm, emotional tone and masterful vocal technique. Thanks to that extraordinary talent, he has built an estimated fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars, from songwriting royalties and sold-out tours to his collaborations with the Eagles, along with a portfolio of properties that stretch from a lush green ranch in Tennessee to a Spanish Revival-style villa perched high in the hills of Los Angeles. Today, in his later years, Vince Gill has chosen a quiet, peaceful life with his wife, Amy Grant, at their farm in Putnam County, Tennessee. Mornings with coffee by the lake, afternoons walking beneath rows of ancient oaks, and evenings filled with the gentle sound of his guitar drifting from the wooden house, a rhythm of life that seems calm, content, and complete. Yet few know that behind this seemingly perfect picture of marriage lies a secret long buried, a forbidden affair that once set all of Nashville abuzz. And the woman at the center of that story was none other than the wife of another country music legend, a man who once called Vince his closest friend. So what really happened? And after everything, is Vince Gill's life today truly peaceful, or merely a facade hiding the secrets that were never meant to be told? Vince Gill was born on April 12, 1957, in Norman, Oklahoma, into a modest family. His father was a police officer and an amateur guitarist, while his mother was a kind-hearted woman who believed that music could heal any wound. From the age of 8, Vince was captivated by the sounds of the mandolin, banjo, and fiddle. He once said, "I didn't have toys, I had a guitar. It was my friend, and it was my hiding place." But Vince's childhood was not as peaceful as the melodies he would later sing. When he reached his teenage years, his parents divorced. The small family split apart. His older brother Bob went to live with their mother, while Vince stayed with their father in the old house in Norman. The separation made the boys' world strangely quiet. Some nights it was just the two of them sitting at the dinner table in silence, letting the ticking of the clock fill the empty space between them. From that point on, the guitar became more than a pastime. It was the only way he could express what words could not. After graduating from high school, Vince left Oklahoma with his old guitar and a few spare dollars. He wandered across the South from Texas to Kentucky, playing in small bars, sometimes just for a meal and a place to sleep. Some nights he would lie behind the stage listening to the rain on the tin roof and imagining it as the sound of drums keeping time for his dreams. During those drifting years, he learned two things: how to make people stop and listen, and how to stand firm even when standing alone. That endurance forged a voice of tender, genuine sorrow, the very quality that would one day allow Vince Gill to touch the hearts of millions. Opportunity finally came when Vince joined the band Pure Prairie League in the late 1970s. His soaring, crystal clear, and emotionally rich vocals quickly captured the attention of audiences across the nation. The song "Let Me Love You Tonight" climbed into the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 in 1980, selling over 1 million copies and putting Vince Gill's name on the map of American music for the very first time. Following that success, Vince decided to leave the group and pursue a solo career, a bold move during an era when Nashville was already dominated by stars like George Strait, Randy Travis, and Reba McEntire. Yet amid that fierce competition, the warmth and sincerity in the young Oklahoman's voice offered something entirely different: genuine emotion paired with flawless technique that never felt forced. The 1980s ushered in the golden era of his career. Under the banners of RCA and later MCA Records, Vince released a string of timeless hits such as "When I Call Your Name, I Still Believe in You," "Look at Us," and "Whenever You Come Around." Each song became a top 10 country hit of the decade each, a reflection of his own life. one written for his wife, another in memory of his father, and others like intimate confessions of a man who had lived and learned. His voice never needed to shout. The moment it rose, entire concert halls fell silent. By the 1990s, Vince Gill stood atop a summit few could ever reach. He won more than 20 Grammy Awards, a record for any male country artist, and over 18 CMA Awards, including 5 consecutive Male Vocalist of the Year honors. Magazines called him the Golden Voice of Nashville, while fans affectionately crowned him the soul of the country ballad. His 1992 album, I Still Believe In. You sold more than 4 million copies, becoming one of the best-selling country albums of the decade. As one journalist once joked, if Vince Gill didn't exist, Nashville would lose half its soul. But beyond the spotlight, Vince was also admired for his seemingly storybook romance with his wife, Janice Oliver. In 1980, Vince married Janice, the sweet-voiced singer of the duo Sweethearts of the Rodeo. They met when they were both young, chasing gigs through California's small-town bars, dreaming of a peaceful home beyond the stage lights. Back then, Vince was still an unknown musician with an old guitar, while Janice was the woman quietly carrying his dreams. She wrote letters to record labels, spent her modest savings on his first demo recordings, and often sat as his only audience in bars where he performed to a few dozen people. As Vince's fame began to grow, Janice willingly stepped back, putting her own singing career aside to care for their small family. She turned down numerous performance offers, dedicating herself to their daughter Jenny and keeping their home warm and grounded. During his long tours, she would drive hundreds of miles just to bring him a freshly pressed shirt or a new song she had written down for him. People in the industry would say, if anyone understands Vince better than himself, it's Janice. When success finally enveloped their lives, the couple left Nashville and moved to a sprawling farm in Putnam County, just over 2 hours away from the city. Yet to them, it felt like the real paradise of Nashville. Surrounded by rolling green hills and a sunlit wooden house, Vince and Janice became a symbol of pure love in the country music world, a story that seemed destined never to know sorrow. The Putnam County farm stretched across more than 800 acres, nestled among Tennessee's gently rising hills. At its highest point stood a small chapel, white walls, an old wooden roof, and a wide porch overlooking a still glassy lake. Nearby, hidden beneath ancient maples, a 19th century log cabin rested by a quiet pond. Its walls darkened with age, its floorboards creaked softly when the wind drifted through the window frame, and outside the water silently caught the reflection of the Tennessee sunset. In those early years at Putnam County, life for Vince and Janice was what everyone dreamed of. In the morning, dew still clung to the meadows, horses neighed softly in the stables, and the first sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, glinting off Janice's face as she baked bread. Vince would walk in, hair tousled after a long night of songwriting, coffee in hand, kiss her gently on the forehead, and sit down on the old wooden chair. In the corner, little Jenny played with a guitar string, her curious eyes watching her father try a few new chords. Everything felt simple, honest, and warm, as if time itself had slowed down. In the afternoon, after the day's chores were done, they would sit on the porch listening to the hum of insects in the grass. Janice would bring out a glass of lemonade while Vince cradled his guitar and picked a few nameless notes. The sound of the strings mingled with the summer breeze, soft as Tennessee's breath. Some days, friends dropped by, fellow musicians from Nashville, and they'd sing together until the sky turned dark. When the fire pit by the lake began to crackle, Jenny would fall asleep in her mother's arms, while Vince kept strumming, lost in new melodies, born from the peaceful heart of that quiet countryside. During those years, Putnam County was more than just a refuge. It was the very source of happiness. There, Vince found in Janice not only a wife, but a true companion, someone who understood when he needed silence, who smiled when he was weary, who was always the first to hear his unfinished songs and offer feedback from the heart rather than the mind. They didn't live extravagantly, but their lives were filled with love. Everyone who visited the farm said that every stone, every blade of grass seemed soaked in happiness, the kind of simple, sincere joy that felt eternal. But then, cracks began to appear faster than anyone expected, fast enough to tear apart a marriage that once seemed unbreakable. They say Nashville has two things that can make a person lose their way: the music and the lights. For Vince, those two had merged dazzling so brightly that he could no longer see what he was losing. Endless tours, lonely hotel rooms after shows, and the reflection of a gentle man who had grown unrecognizable to himself. Then came Christmas of 1993. The stage of CMT's Christmas special glowed brilliantly in the heart of Nashville. As Vince stepped out, his guitar shimmering under the lights beside him, stood Amy Grant, the queen of Christian music, her voice soft and tender like a prayer. They performed House of Love together, and the audience seemed to hold its breath. Their eyes met for only a few seconds, yet to everyone watching, that fleeting moment lasted longer than the song itself. What no one expected was that Amy at the time was married to Gary Chapman, one of Vince's closest friends. And from the instant their eyes met, the boundary between music, friendship, and desire began to blur, opening a chapter neither of them would be brave enough to close. After that performance, nothing was the same. From stolen glances on stage, they began finding each other beyond the spotlight. One late winter night that same year, hotel staff in downtown Nashville saw Vince Gill enter through the back door, cap pulled low, collar raised high. Moments later, Amy Grant arrived, scarf wrapped tightly around her face, hurrying down the hallway. They didn't speak much, just disappeared quietly behind the door on the third floor, where a dim yellow light flickered along the corridor. The next morning, Vince's guitar was seen leaning by the window of that room, and a coffee cup beside it was still warm. But the secrecy didn't end there. The long nights back at the Putnam County farm began to carry whispers of their own. Beneath the old oak trees, where the moonlight barely dared to pass, people began murmuring about what happened behind those wooden gates. One foggy Saturday night, a young newspaper boy riding past the fields claimed to have seen what he shouldn't have. His voice trembled as he told the story: Vince Gill wearing his familiar flannel shirt standing close to a woman beside the stables. In the faint glow of a hanging lamp, their silhouettes merged a hurried yet burning kiss, as if both knew time was no longer theirs. Joey swore the woman with golden hair and a white silk scarf was Amy Grant. Not long after, even the beekeeper by the lake began to notice strange signs. One night, while delivering honey, she saw a familiar silver car parked crookedly by the fence, its window slightly open, and from inside, a soft gospel melody floated Amy's unmistakable voice. As she drew closer, faint laughter from the small chapel stopped her in her tracks. Through the window, slit candlelight flickered across two figures, standing so close there was no space between them. I didn't want to believe it. Martha told her neighbors later, but what I saw couldn't have been a coincidence. The next morning, a pearl earring was found glinting near the stable gate, where the grass was flattened as if someone had left in a hurry. Rumors spread like wildfire. In the small cafe on Main Street, people began looking at Janice with eyes full of pity. A local newspaper published a blurry photo of Vince and Amy hand in hand leaving a rundown bar near the farm, their eyes locked as if sharing a story Nashville wasn't ready to hear. "We're just friends," Vince repeated in interviews, but his uneasy smile only made the whispers sound even more certain. Janice chose silence, bearing the pain on her own. She once told a close friend, "People can lose their husbands to fame, but I never thought I'd lose mine because of a Christmas song." From the day the rumors spread, she neither cried nor tried to defend herself. She simply lived quietly inside a house that felt too large, too still. Each night when the sound of Vince's guitar drifted from the studio where he stayed up late, Janice would turn off the lights, open the porch door, and gaze out at the lake, calm as glass. Sometimes she would set out 2 cups on the table out of old habit, only to put one away again. In the bedroom, Vince's suit still hung in the closet, the faint trace of his familiar cologne still in the air, a scent she longed to keep, yet wished she could forget. Many nights she stayed awake waiting to see if the studio door would open. But through countless moons, that door stayed shut, and the distance between them slowly became something nothing could fill. And so, after nearly 2 decades that had seemed unbreakable, the marriage of Vince Gill and Janice Oliver officially came to an end. There were no loud lawsuits, no bitter battles over property, only a quiet agreement accompanied by a personal letter of apology Vince sent to his former wife. "I never meant to hurt you," he wrote. "We just reached the end of the road without realizing it." Yet the media would not let it rest. They called it Nashville's loudest quiet divorce, and country magazines published side-by-side photos of Janice, the woman of his past, and Amy Grant, the woman of his future. Janice took their daughter Jenny and left Nashville, choosing a quiet life in California. Vince, meanwhile, continued to perform regularly, but something in his voice had changed. It grew deeper, colder, as though time had polished away the edges of his emotion. When High Lonesome Sound 1996 was released, listeners no longer heard pain, but a detached calm, the sound of someone who had made his peace with what he'd lost. Songs like "Go Rest High on That Mountain" and "Whenever You Come Around No Longer Mourned." They closed the chapter gently, carrying the chill of a door closing between 2 worlds. 2 years later, Vince Gill and Amy Grant were officially married. The ceremony took place quietly in a small chapel in Nashville. No reporters, no applause, just a handful of close friends and a strange, sacred stillness in the air. Afterward, they returned to live at the very same farm in Putnam County, the one that had once been Vince and Janice's home. Everything remained as it was, the clear lake, the ancient oaks, the wooden house echoing with guitar music each night. Except now, the woman standing on the porch was no longer Janice. Although Vince and Amy went on to live happily together, Nashville never truly forgave them. The man who once sang about loyalty and love, who made millions believe that sincerity still exists in show business, had become proof of the opposite. He had betrayed the woman who stood by him through the leanest years, only to walk hand in hand with another into the light on the same ground that had once been their home. From that moment, the image of Nashville's gentle husband collapsed completely. On stage, he still sang and smiled, but the innocence in his eyes was gone. The audience still listened to his music, yet they could hear the guilt woven through every note. Beneath the golden lights, Vince Gill was no longer a symbol of love, but a reminder that even the most beautiful melodies can be born from a heart that once betrayed. After leaving the Putnam farm, Vince and Amy kept another home thousands of miles away on the hills of Los Angeles. It was a Spanish colonial revival-style villa built in 1922, hidden behind old trees and overlooking the glittering city below. The 1.5-acre property worth over $10 million was a place where California's sunsets poured through wooden-framed windows, bathing the hand-painted cream walls in soft gold as though the house itself was breathing light. The interiors, meticulously restored by Commune Design, the renowned Los Angeles firm, preserved the classic spirit of the 1920s: high wooden ceilings, smooth plaster walls, and antique brass pieces set among bright steel details. The spacious living room featured a stone fireplace. The dining area opened onto a wide terrace overlooking the valley, and the kitchen overflowed with natural light, where the mingling scents of coffee and wood created a sense of peace and belonging. Upstairs were 2 large bedrooms. The master suite caught the morning sun through arched windows overlooking the treetops, while the marble-tiled bathroom with its vintage soaking tub was where Amy often read her books, and Vince quietly wrote music in the late afternoon glow. Outside, a winding pool curved like a gentle stream beside a fire pit, an open-air movie corner, and stone paths that led through gardens, a koi pond, and resting benches hidden beneath climbing vines. Behind the peaceful gates of his Tennessee ranch, Vince Gill keeps another world all to himself, one where metal and the hum of engines are living memories. His vintage car collection, worth over $5 million, isn't merely a display of long-lasting passion. It's a journal written in steel marking each chapter of a country legend's journey. The 1984 Cadillac might be the clearest symbol of the time when Vince began stepping out from the shadows of obscurity into the light. It wasn't a flashy car, its silver paint had faded, the leather seats worn, but it carried him through his early years on the road from Nashville to Memphis, from Kentucky to Georgia. On fog-covered highways, he would play cassette tapes of raw bluegrass or hum a few unfinished lines of his own. Inside that cramped cabin, songs were born, not planned, but as if they had found him on their own. To others, the 1984 Cadillac was just a modest car. To Vince, it was a mobile studio where the rhythm of the engine beat in time with his heart and inspiration struck somewhere between the mile markers of the southern night. Beside it sits a 1960 Chevrolet CK pickup. Its red body faded its bed, once loaded with everything from speakers and guitars to bundles of hay at harvest. It's one of the few surviving original models still intact with authentic Southern accessories from the 1960s. In similar auctions, its value could reach hundreds of thousands of dollars, proof that true worth lies not in age but in preservation. It's the truck of the American South, sturdy, rugged, yet filled with soul. Vince once let his young daughter Jenny sit in the middle seat, her tiny hands on the wheel as he guided her around their Tennessee farm. No words, just laughter, the wind rushing through the windows and the growl of the old V8 blending into a harmony of simple happiness. For him, those were moments worth more than any award, the rare times when a celebrated musician could just be a father fully alive in his quiet world. But among his collection, one car stands apart: the Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz, the epitome of 1950s elegance and luxury. Its long body, ivory white paint, gleaming chrome trim, and proud tail fins looked like wings carved from metal. The Eldorado Biarritz was a limited edition classic, a collector's item that could fetch hundreds of thousands if kept pristine. Vince didn't buy it for its price, but for its sentiment. He once saw that very model in an old photo of Elvis Presley and said, "The Eldorado has its own soul." The first time he drove it to a charity concert, the audience wasn't just waiting for the music. They turned their heads to watch the car glide under the golden lights. Since then, every sunset at the ranch finds Vince sitting by that Eldorado guitar in hand, softly singing as the sun sinks behind the Tennessee hills. A car doesn't always have to move. He once said, "Sometimes it just needs to remind you of what you once felt." As twilight falls over the Tennessee hills, the small garage glows in a dim amber light. Vince often pauses before each car, running his fingers over the hood, as if greeting an old friend. Among the scent of iron and wood, the music always returns not from the guitar but from memory. For Vince Gill, cars aren't about speed, they're reminders of where he began. And perhaps in the gentle rumble of an engine, he still hears the echo of that young Oklahoma boy guitar on his back, chasing a dream that's still unfinished somewhere down the road. From that small garage where vintage engines rest patiently beneath golden light, Vince Gill's story opens to another chapter, one quieter yet equally impressive: his wealth and sources of income. To many, success is measured by numbers, by the rising graph of fame and fortune. But to Vince, wealth isn't for show. It's the natural outcome of a lifetime's work, built note by note, performance by performance, mile by mile across the American South. His career truly took off in 1989 when I Call Your Name hit radio stations across the nation. The song not only brought him closer to the public, but opened the door to a wave of commercial success, performance contracts, recording royalties, and lucrative collaborations. The album sold over 1 million copies, earning Vince his first Grammy Award and cementing his place among Nashville's highest-paid artists. In the following years, Pocket Full of Gold and I Still Believe in You both achieved multi-platinum status, solidifying his reputation as one of the best-selling country voices of the 1990s. For Vince Gill, music has never been a game of sales figures. Every hit song didn't just bring in money, it served as a bridge connecting him to his listeners. As royalties flowed in from millions of plays, from tracks featured in films, commercials, and compilation albums, Vince maintained his simple habits. He devoted most of his earnings to family and charity. Even so, financial analysts estimate his net worth at around $30 million, an impressive figure, considering that nearly all of it came from pure creative effort. No risky investments, no side businesses, just music and time. A large part of Vince's income comes from live performances. Over the course of 3 decades, he has carried out hundreds of tours, each lasting for months and drawing tens of thousands of fans. His Key to Life tour alone earned several $1 million in just a few months. Yet, what set him apart was not the scale of the venue, but the sincerity of his performance. He often said that a small-town crowd deserves music just as much as Madison Square Garden. That philosophy earned him a loyal fan base and consistent performance contracts, even as country music evolved through the decades. After 2010, Vince expanded his work by joining the Time Jumpers, a renowned swing band in Nashville. Every week they performed in a small club for little to no pay, yet the seats were always full. That humility only strengthened his reputation as the people's musician. Around the same time, Vince began writing more for others, from songs for Reba McEntire to duets with Emmylou Harris and Alison Krauss, all of which continued to generate steady royalty income. But the greatest financial turning point came in 2017 when he was invited to join the legendary Eagles, taking the place of the late Glenn Frey. It wasn't just an honor, it was a rare career opportunity. Each Eagles tour generated tens of millions of dollars, and Vince, with his unmistakable voice and guitar work, became the band's new heartbeat. Sold-out shows from London to Los Angeles not only strengthened his position and income, but also introduced him to a new generation of fans unfamiliar with classic country. Industry analysts estimate that his time touring with the Eagles alone brought him millions of dollars in performance and royalty earnings. Outside of music, Vince's investments are steady, not in stocks or business ventures, but in real estate. His 843-acre farm in Tennessee remains part of his holdings alongside his $10 million Spanish Revival villa in Los Angeles. He doesn't buy property to collect it. He buys it to live, to work, to nurture creativity. Each piece of land, each home, each garden corner is cared for as if it were a work of art. When a reporter once asked why he didn't sell the Tennessee ranch and move permanently to California, Vince just smiled and said, "The music I write needs both places. Tennessee for the heart, Los Angeles for the mind." Now in his 60s, Vince Gill no longer chases fame. He still earns well from royalties, still performs, still writes, but all at a slow, deliberate pace. No pressure to prove anything, no desire to show off. To him, the greatest wealth isn't in numbers, but in the ability to live in harmony with the music he loves, the same music that has sustained him all his life and continues to echo through every Tennessee season. If money measures success, then compassion measures character. And in Nashville, people speak of Vince Gill not only as a master musician, but as one of the warmest hearts ever to grace the city. Since the early 1990s, when his name began to spread across America, Vince Gill had already begun using music for good. In 1993, he founded the Vince Gill Pro Celebrity Invitational, affectionately known as Vinnie Pro. What started as a small golf outing among friends, a few artists, athletes, and longtime fans, has over more than 3 decades become one of Tennessee's largest annual charity events, raising over $8 million to fund youth golf programs for underprivileged children. Those kids who once could only watch the greens from behind fences now hold clubs, learn the game, and discover confidence, all thanks to the kindness of a man who loves both sport and people. Golf was just the beginning. After marrying Amy Grant, Vince expanded his philanthropy into new areas. One of their most meaningful projects is Challenge Aspen, an organization that supports people with disabilities through sports and the arts. They believe that when music comes from the heart, it can heal where medicine cannot. Each year, Vince and Amy host small benefit concerts, no bright lights, no fanfare, just songs for those who need to hear them. In 2009, they co-founded Challenge America, a nationwide initiative that helps U.S. veterans reintegrate into civilian life after war. The project combines music, art, and community to heal emotional wounds, a mission deeply personal to Vince. In many interviews, he shared that some soldiers would attend his concerts, stay silent throughout, and simply whisper "thank you" before leaving. If even one person feels heard, he once said, then music has done something greater than any award ever could. Vince didn't stop there. He also serves as chairman of the board for the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, where he launched the All for the Hall campaign, a large-scale fundraising project dedicated to preserving and passing on the legacy of country music to future generations. For him, musical heritage isn't just a memory of the past, but a promise to the future. Hundreds of artists from Taylor Swift to Keith Urban have performed without pay, helping raise millions of dollars for the cause. During these concerts, Vince is often seen quietly standing backstage, strumming guitar accompaniment for others, smiling as the crowd erupts in applause. He once said, "I don't need to be in the spotlight anymore as long as the music keeps living." The list of organizations Vince supports goes on: St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, MusiCares, Children's Health Fund, City of Hope Special Olympics, and more. Yet what people admire most isn't the amount of money he donates, but how he shows up. No cameras, no press releases, no oversized checks held up for photographs, only genuine presence. He arrives, talks, listens, shakes hands, and quietly slips away. A friend once said if Nashville were a ballad, Vince Gill would be the gentle note in the middle, the place where people pause to breathe. Despite his busy touring schedule, Vince has never missed the city's major charity events. Every year, he devotes dozens of nights to fundraising performances, often without taking a fee. Once, when a friend asked why he didn't take a break, he simply smiled and said, "I've received so much from this life. The only way to feel worthy of it is to keep giving back." Perhaps it's that selflessness that earned him the nickname the kindest man in Nashville. The title isn't official, but it's how people in the industry, from stars to stagehands, refer to him. A man who always bends down to shake every hand, remembers the names of backstage staff, and checks in on the janitor after a show. For Vince Gill, kindness isn't a duty. It's instinct as natural as the quiet thank you he whispers after every song. And in the end, Vince Gill's story leaves a lingering question in the Tennessee air. How can a man who wrote ballads that healed millions of hearts be the same man who broke one so deeply? What do you think of that choice? Can music sold out nights, charity work, and a lifetime of quiet devotion ever make up for the wound called an affair with Amy Grant? Or are there some sins that never truly close? Even when time has covered the old ranch gates in moss and the hum of the engines in his garage fades into a whisper, like a confession carried on the wind. If you want to keep exploring the hidden stories behind the gates of Hollywood's legendary estates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next episode.